Here we go. So we come out here a lot of times from Mars and we try to talk to different founders from around the country doing different things. We've had some tech people out here in the past, but I'm super excited today to talk to Mercy. So Mercy is my daughter and she goes to George Mason University. She's studying cybersecurity engineering and agreed to come out and share a project that she's working on. It's a community service project with the Honors College over at George Mason. And she's just got to get out there and help other parents become good at keeping their kids safe online. And so I'm really excited to give Mercy an hour out here. We're going to be exactly an hour. So we're going to be respectful of everyone's time. And we would love it if people would come out and have some conversation with us for her project end of it for school. She gets some value out of questions. So please feel free, if you're out here, to ask us some questions in the comments. You can PM me. I'll try to be watching everything on my Facebook. We are going to go live on my personal profile page. We'll be on the Mars page and the Alabama Micro School page, hoping to help and get to as many of us founders as possible, because keep it in your back pocket that this whole thing that she's doing for you guys today, you should be able to run this on your campuses or at your schools, and for the families that you guys serve. I know I have a lot of founders that have their own communities, and everybody's worried about this topic. So Mercy, I'm so excited to hand this over to you. Are you ready?
Yeah. All right. Thank you for giving me the platform to do this. That was definitely one of the challenges, was trying to figure out a way to test it and get it out there. My goal with this project is for it to be in person eventually and hosted. It could be hosted. I'm going to be starting near me where I'm at with George Mason in Fairfax, but I want to make it so that it's something that anybody could host, given the right resources. This is basically like a beta test of the workshop. So any feedback you have on what else you want to hear about, or any other questions that were left at the end, I want to hear it all, because this is how I'm creating stuff for the next go around.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to disappear and we'll make sure your slides are up, and I will be back at the end.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, so basically, topic for today is cyber safety. That's very, very broad topic. Just basically want to keep your kid safe online while still, keeping it realistic. The kids, it's very internet age, whether it's games or just communicating with their peers or anything else. A lot of it will have to do with being online. And so that will come with how to be online safely. So what I'm going to be providing you guys with today is a way to educate you guys so that you guys can make educated decisions about your own household. I'm not going to tell you the correct way to parent your kids or anything, of course. I'm just trying to give you all of the information so that you can make decisions on what works best for your family. So as I go through this workshop, I'm going to have different questions that I'm going to be posing to you guys. So if you guys can find comments or the chat or anything, and kind of think about these and put what you think into the chat. So the first one I have is, what are you hoping to learn today, or what worries you most about your child's online life? So this is kind of big concept. Anything that comes to mind when you think of, digital safety, online safety with your kid going online, maybe gaming or just chatting with friends or anything else that has to do with going online. We'll give it a little bit longer and then we'll jump right in. So just keep thinking about what currently are the concerns for online safety and what are you maybe doing about it now. Yep, so a big worry is definitely maybe predators or inappropriate for the age. not knowing if people are real or fake. Yeah. And we'll talk about these today. Okay, so jumping in, what we'll cover. We have what platforms are your kids using, so that you can kind of put an image to maybe this word that they're saying, like, oh, I'm going on Roblox later today. Like, what does that actually look like? So that you can, if you're looking over their shoulder, checking in every once in a while, you're like, okay, that's what they're working on, and this is what the security concerns with that actually are. So then we're also going to talk about what are some cyber safety risks. So these are a lot of the ones that you guys have mentioned in the chat. So like, what is real? How are we making it so that what they're seeing online is appropriate for them to be seeing, and the people that they're communicating are people that are appropriate for them to be communicating with, and those chats are accurate or correct or just nice in general. Then we're going to talk about what are some specific parental controls and technology tools that you can use and incorporate to help you enforce the security while still providing the ability for your kid to feel like you're not making all of the choices for them or like locking them away from the internet. So it's trying to find that boundary and what are the controls that you can do to do that. And then we're going to talk about, how communication is key when it comes to cyber safety as well. All right, so what platforms, so this can be an app, it can be a website, any other sort of communication that they use day to day. That would be online, meeting other different people. Yeah, Discord is a big one right now. They're actually being used constantly on the college campus right now. It's one of the most popular ways of communicating. Instagram and Snapchat. Yeah. So the different social media, those are popular with, I guess, the younger age group. Facebook has seemed to kind of go towards the older age group. So, yep, Discord and Roblox. They're both really big and online. Yep. GroupMe is also really big. Okay. So let's look at some of these. So the first kind of category that we're going to look at is social media. So these are a lot of the ones that you guys mentioned. I'm also going to introduce some that maybe you haven't heard of before. Maybe your kids aren't using it, but something to be aware of just in case they are. And then you can help them make decisions on if they want to get on it, if it's safe for them to do so, and if they want to get on it, how can they do so safely? So the first one that you probably are hearing a lot of is TikTok. So this is kind of some screenshots of what it looks like. It's basically a video-based social media. So the primary concern that you'll hear a lot is about this feed. How is it determining a feed for customizing all the videos for you? So it does have an AI algorithm that is determining what to give you so that you stay on the app longer. Because when these social media apps are put together, they monopolize on the time that you spend on the app. So because they're going to be showing you ads, they're going to be, doing all of these things, promotions, all of this to make their money. So they aren't, making you pay to use the app. It's all on your time and attention. So some of the concerns with something like this is, one, it's AI. Anytime you have AI, it's collecting data. What data is it collecting? Do you want it to be collecting that data? So right now, even if you have TikTok as locked down as possible, it will always be collecting data about how long you stay on a certain video, what topics are in that video, whether or not you like or engage with the video. And that information can be used in ways to kind of better know you. Of course, then you're needing to be thinking about, where is that information going? Right now, it has I think there was a law passed. I'm not sure if it was a law or something, but now all of the U.S. citizens' data is being stored in the U.S., but TikTok is not a U.S. company. So these are also things to be aware of, because you can never be 100% sure where that data is going and how it's being used. So just be aware that that data is being collected, even if you have it as secure as possible. So a lot of people are recommending to just avoid TikTok in general. I've found if kids don't get on TikTok, they aren't likely to want to be on TikTok. Once they've started to be on TikTok, it's a lot harder to remove them from the platform. I speak with experience. It's very addictive in the nature of it, because it does give you all of the videos that you want to see. Of course, you'll get the same chat features. You have a profile. You're taking videos maybe of yourself. If you're under 18, you are putting, images or videos of yourself out there so that there's a digital footprint of anything you say or do or are associated with. You have to think about, it's a video, so what is in the background? What is being said behind you? What is being shown behind you? What information are you giving away that maybe isn't the immediate information, but some background information? So this is kind of like the things that you want to think about for an app like TikTok. So then we're getting into Instagram. Instagram is a little bit safer because it doesn't have as big of an algorithm aspect as TikTok does. Also, Instagram is owned by Meta, which is definitely more, American, US owned rather than TikTok. So that's one thing to think about, is where is the data? Worst case scenario, it is at least made within, America. But Instagram has changed a lot in the last couple of years. Originally, it was pretty much anytime you had friends and a friend would post a update of, some photos. It was kind of just like sharing photos with each other, sharing updates, and your feed would end once you have seen all of the videos or, photos that all of your friends has posted in the last couple of days. And that was it. But recently they have incorporated more of a feed aspect, similar a little bit to TikTok. So it won't just show you the feed of your friends, and there's no way to make your feed only of your friends. The feed will always show what it thinks you want to see. Now, those things that it thinks that you want to see, you can definitely put a lot of limitations on it so that it has age filters, and it's never going to show inappropriate options if you put those correct filters in. What it can't filter is based off of your friends. So making sure that if you give somebody the permission to be, exchange the friend. So in Instagram, you have to apply to be their friend or to follow them, and they can apply to follow you if you have a private account. So this is assuming the highest security available. So just make sure that when you're following somebody, you know who you're following, things like that. For kids, I would recommend, making sure that you only exchange information for handles in person. So that makes sure that you're not accidentally following someone that you didn't intend to. That kind of limits that. And then if they only have a set number of friends that are approved and insured to be real people, then Instagram can actually be a very safe environment for them to still connect with their peers. So the only other aspect of this that you want to be careful with is it is still going to be public, regardless of if you have a private account or not. It still affects your digital footprint. There's still some way that it could get out beyond that private area. So what you're saying, what you're showing, the background information that you're giving away is what you want to kind of teach them how to avoid. So like, don't tell, maybe what school you're at currently is even something that you want to avoid, maybe until, there maybe college is where you can start putting like what college you go to, because that's pretty big. But like, I wouldn't recommend putting what elementary, what middle, or what high school you go to. For micro schools or home schools, it could be a little bit different. But if you have an in-person place that you're going to be at regularly and they can count on that, don't put it on social media. Don't put it on the internet. So little things like that, and being careful about what information you give out is going to be the primary concern with Instagram. But that's going to be with any time that they're interacting with the internet. So Instagram is more secure if you have the right things in place. Snapchat is kind of known as being a way that the messages will go away. That's what they tell you. So when you have the chat feature, it's basically just like text messages. You can think of it that way. But if nobody saves the message, then the next time you open up that chat history, it's gone. You can't see it again. You can have settings that set it so that the chats will stay for 24 hours and then disappear, Or if you manually save a chat, then it'll be saved until you unsave it. So this idea has allowed kids to be like, oh, well, it's safe to say things that maybe wouldn't get tied back to them. But of course, you want to think about, well, if somebody took a screenshot, if somebody wrote it down, if, there's still ways that it could get out. So that is kind of one of the concerns with this one, is just because it's providing a way for not quite anonymity, because you still have an account, but a way that the messages disappear. And just being sure that they understand that the digital footprint can still exist, even if it's not visible to you. There's still ways that it could exist out there. Other things to think about is they have a map feature. This is based off of the geolocation of your phone or tablet or whatever device is connected to Snapchat. I would highly recommend, if you do have a kid that has Snapchat, immediately disable that. I'm not 100% sure if by default it is turned on, but it might be one of those pop-ups that show on when you're first logging into Snapchat that you just kind of, click through until you get into the app. So just make sure that they do not have a live GPS showing where they are. They also have filters and camera in the camera mode. So one thing to think about for that is, of course, they're going to be fun. Like sometimes, it makes you look like a dog, or adds sunglasses, or gives you a hat or something silly like that. And they're fun. But think about, for your kids, where is this information going? Is it going to be showing them in a respectful light? So make sure that if you're taking a silly photo and you're posting it online, who can see it? Maybe 5 years down the road, you have a job interview, and they're always are going to do a background check on social media. And if they see something like completely ridiculous that maybe doesn't show you in a good light, that could come back to haunt you. So kind of being like, okay, what am I doing? Who is going to be potentially seeing it? And would that be bad if they saw this? Just another thing to think about. They have, of course, the same way that you can be friends with somebody, and there's a lot of limitations on security in that way, and communication ways as well. YouTube is probably one of the more well-known platforms out there. They do have what's called YouTube Reels now, which is similar to TikTok. It is not the same, but visibly when you're going through it, it is very similar. So YouTube Reels is just like that, like the smartphone up, down, scroll, one video at a time look, and they're short reels. So they're typically, 20 seconds to a minute long. And that's just that short-term content, which is trying to engage you for a small video, and then multiple videos to keep you engaged longer than maybe a 20-minute video that you get bored of and will decide to turn the app off. YouTube has age filters. It has pretty good age filters. So as long as you have those in place, it is pretty good. Just be aware that if you're wondering about maybe attention and building a strong attention span, it does have the Reels capability. There is research in place right now determining whether or not having these short form content is affecting attention span in the long term. But if it is, accurately able to keep your child's attention, then it is definitely taking their time away if they're not able to exit the app. So just think about that. It does have that ability. But most kids might be using it for long form videos, which is the regular, maybe 20-minute videos. So just, talk with your kid about what they're using it for, to see if that matches what you want them to be doing on it. Be Real is one of the apps that just came up a couple of years ago. I'm not sure how prevalent it is right now. I think it's typically more for higher teenage age groups. What it is it's trying to fight the genuine aspect of all of these social media, which in the core concept is kind of nice, because there's a lot of hiding behind a screen and maybe, doing all of these filters to make your life look glamorous and this and that and whatever, that this idea was to say randomly time in the day, it's going to send you a notification, and everybody else who has the app is going to get the notification at the same time. And you're going to have a 2-minute timer to take a picture of what you're doing or where you are at that point in time. Then you don't have time to add a filter. You can't add a filter. You can't gloss over what you're doing or, something like that. It's trying to give you a realistic glimpse into your friends' lives. Now, the security concerns with this is, one, you're telling somebody where you are, potentially right where you're at that spot, because it's not like there's going to be a delay from you being like, oh, I'm at this exact chicken restaurant at this time, and then it's posting it 2 hours later. No, it's immediately posting it. So that is something to think about. It is only going to show it to your friends. So there is that where, if you've made that connection, the change of, I apply to be your friend, you apply to be my friend, we both accept, then there's a little bit more like surety that they are somebody who you trust with that information. But another thing just to be aware of. Another thing is when you have a 2-minute timer, you're maybe not thinking about what's in the background, maybe who's in the background. If you have friends who maybe don't want to be in the picture, there's a lot of, distance between maybe the consent of photographing and kids maybe who have been, grown up on internet, taking photos, sharing photos, all of this, that maybe don't want to take a second to think, let me ask everybody in this photo if they want to be shared. So that's another thing that this one, you'll just need to make sure that you bring up to your kid and be like, hey, if you do take of other people, just make sure that you get their consent to post it so that everybody is aware of, how they look, what they're doing, what it says about them when you post it. Because it could be that you're posting it on your account, but it could still affect their digital footprint. Finsta. So this is a term basically for fake Instagram account. So sometimes when parents set certain controls over an Instagram account and the kid doesn't want to have those controls, or maybe wants to post things that they don't want to share their parents, or follow accounts that, aren't visible to that one account that maybe about. So it's common for kids to have a Finsta that they will post about or use in addition to their other accounts. So it's not hard to make multiple accounts. So just also to be aware of that. Okay, so gaming platforms. So I saw a couple of these earlier. Roblox is a big one, Minecraft and Fortnite. And of course, there's more beyond this, but these are kind of like hitting the high points. So Roblox, this is kind of what it can look like. You'll see that it's kind of got this sort of Lego-like figure. They're not quite, block as Minecraft, but not quite real people like Fortnite. So it's kind of like this avatar. You can customize the avatar, as with a lot of games. It's kind of giving you a way to express maybe yourself or, have a fun little character of all these things. So when we're looking at how to secure Roblox, or what are some of the concerns for Roblox, I will put like an asterisk to what I'm saying, because Roblox is undergoing a massive shift right now where they are having age categories and different requirements for each of those categories. And I'll show you those in a second. But one of the main things to think about is with Roblox, first of all, it has a chat feature. That chat feature can also be voice. I don't believe it does camera. I don't believe it does video, but it does have chat and voice. It has moderators on the app, but of course, maybe somebody is saying something that doesn't get flagged or something like that. So one of the biggest things to think about with Roblox and having an online chat feature is going to be cyberbullying. Maybe it could even be from a peer that is of the same age or younger. It doesn't necessarily have to be an age factor for that to be effective. Another thing to think about is if it's maybe not age appropriate. So maybe it's somebody who's, 18 that's playing with, you have a 9-year-old on Roblox. Kind of thinking about what are they putting into the chat versus what is your kid putting into the chat. They have a lot of filters for the chat for like keywords, but maybe something goes through, just like the attitude that they have versus the attitude that your child has, and just kind of thinking about how they would be interacting with people of different age ranges. This can be moderated. I helped kind of set up some limitations on my younger brother's account. And you can basically have a parent account that is linked to your child's Roblox account. And you can set all of the settings regarding can they access the chat? Can they enter what's called a lobby or an obby with people that they don't know? Can it be a public one? Can it only be private invite? Can they only see their friends? And there's a bunch of these kind of things in there that can help strengthen the security of it. Of course, you'll want to find the balance between what they want to be doing and what is very secure, because if they want to be doing something so much that they are willing to go around what you are putting in place, then that would even put them out to more danger than just slightly limiting the security features. So we'll talk about how to balance that, but there's a lot in place with Roblox that you can do that. Yes, so there are voice changing apps that people can use, and they use it in both directions. They use it to present themselves maybe in a way that isn't themselves. So maybe if I got on there and I chose, I could choose like an older maybe voice, or I could choose a younger voice and just kind of present, especially with the aid of an avatar. It's really easy to just think of that avatar as a person. And if the voice identifies with that avatar that I can see, it's really easy to make that assumption. So there's a lot less accuracy on are they real and can you trust that? So what you would do instead is kind of focus on making sure that you're only playing with people that you know offline. And if you know them offline, you can validate what they're doing online. When it comes to regulations, there isn't much in the US. The biggest one is in EU. So the European Union has the GDPR. So sometimes when it's a app like Roblox, they'll be GDPR compliant, which means they're following all of these standards for that the EU has set, and it also benefits us in America. So one thing I wanted to show you guys was one of the new things with Roblox. This is being rolled out, I believe, 1st of June. Or I think it might be slow rolling out now, but I think it's being locked in by the 1st of June. So they're going to have 3 separate types of accounts. Roblox Kids, so ages 5 to 8, and then 9 to 15, and then 16 and up. So this is having a goal of setting different content ratings, because anybody can create games, and those games can have different content ratings because, of course, it's an open field. They can build and make whatever game that they want. So those games will have different ratings. There's also predominantly is going to be the chat, whether or not the chat feature is by default turned off or by default turned on. And there's a lot of parental controls that are maybe a lot more restrictive on the younger account versus the older account. To keep in mind with this, how they're checking the age is facial. They have like a facial age AI. So this comes back to now we have AI. AI uses data. Where is it, keeping your data? Is it for sure going to be handling that data correctly? Another thing to think about is how did they train this AI? Is it going to be accurate? So I would do a little bit of research on your own before you have your kid go through this, just because I want to make sure that you guys are confident in what's going on. So one of the things I wanted to show you is it's not required to do the AI check, where the AI check is basically just, it's going to take a picture of your kid when you tell them to take a picture. So like the camera's not on unless you turn it on, but it will be taking a picture of your kid and putting it up into its database. And hypothetically, it's saying that once we've done the check, then we're going to delete that photo. But there's no proof of that. There's no way for it to be like, yes, for sure, we've done that. So there's a little bit of trust that's going on here. It says that it is using Persona, which is a company that is GDPR compliant, so it has a little bit more trust given to it. But again, just another thing to think about: are you comfortable with that? Do you trust it? If you do not do the age verification AI, then it will, I believe, put them at the lower age bracket, so the most restrictions. I think it also provides an option that you can upload your ID and then also take a selfie with your ID so that it can guarantee that you are the person on that ID. Again, it's taking a photo. Where is it putting that information from your ID? Where is it taking that photo? Where is it keeping it? Things to think about. Okay, Minecraft. Minecraft is similar to Roblox in many ways, where you can create your own servers. Just like in Roblox, you can create your own games and you can have people join it. There's also public servers or public games that you can join with other people. I believe Minecraft is a little bit easier to restrict without losing the joy in the game, I guess. A lot of Minecraft can be done completely offline. Like you can be on your computer playing Minecraft with no outside people, and it has pretty much the same benefits as playing it online. Of course, maybe a kid really wants to play online with some of these servers and they have different game modes and stuff like that. But you wouldn't be losing the core of Minecraft by completely eliminating online. Roblox is very much a community-based system where the community is providing the games that you play. So it's a little bit harder to have that distinction for Roblox as it is with Minecraft. For Minecraft, you can then also choose, maybe you can have them go into these servers, but maybe even though they're with, people online that they don't know, then you restrict the chat so they can't see or access the chat. That would be like different security levels that you can do. And there's different levels that you can do to kind of set this. So you can go all the way from just keeping it completely offline. You can have it be so that they can only join friends games with them. Or you can have it where they can be online in these public areas, but maybe set some limitations in those public areas. So there's different things you can do for that. Fortnite is, again, another one that has a live chat and a live voice. And again, another thing to think about is with the voice changing so that they think that the person that they're seeing looks a little bit or like their avatar in real life, then they probably are. So another thing to think about, you can restrict chat access. It's not necessary for the game. It might not be as fun depending on, what your kid is interested in when they're playing the game without the chat access, but it is physically possible to restrict that chat access, which is the highest security issue with Fortnite would be that chat. Okay, so then when it comes to messaging, this is typically more one-on-one or one to group. So it could be a group chat or something, but it's not going out into the public sphere like social media or the gaming is. These are assuming that you've already made an initial exchange of being friends or exchange of following or exchange of phone numbers. Some exchange has already happened. So that exchange, first of all, just needs to be made sure that it's done offline so that you can ensure the validity of who you're messaging. Most of these you'll probably have heard of, just like text messaging. But Discord is growing, very much, very fast. It is probably the single most used communication tool that we are using currently at my university. So it is thriving. It's also very, very popular for people who are doing online gaming together because it can allow you to share your screen. It can allow you to join voice calls. It can allow you to have different chat threads. You can have direct chats with people, or you can have what's called a server, which is basically like a group chat, except you can continue to add people and remove people and into that group chat. The group chat then has options to name different what are called channels. So you're basically having multiple threads where you're talking to the same group of people. So maybe you have 5 friends and you name a Discord server like the Friends 5 or something. And then inside of it, you wanted to sometimes talk about your pets. So you have a channel that says, pets. And then you have another channel that you're talking about whenever you go online and you're gaming. So you have a channel to talk about gaming. So it's the same people that have the access to the channels, but it's just kind of saving it as a different thread. So for this one, you can join public servers. So that is where a lot of the security issues will come into play. But another thing to think about is even if you have it restricted to just people where you've made that exchange of I know who you are, I know you know who I am, we're going to be friends online, and we've made that exchange and we know that each other are who they say they are, you could still have cyberbullying or any other issues that come with not necessarily an anonymous feeling, which is where a lot of cyberbullying can come from, but maybe it's the fact that they're just putting out 10 messages in a minute and they're not thinking through what they're saying, and that can be harmful. So things like that can come from, even if you have it completely secure, it's something that could happen in real life just by kids saying things before they think it through, can happen online as well. And maybe it is amplified online because they have so much access to it. All right, so now we're going to kind of look at what are the actual risks and concerns. I talked about a little bit of it for each of the different platforms, but maybe in a broader scale, what are some of these risks that you're worried about? I also see a question here about the Steam gaming platform. Steam is kind of like Google Play, where it is hosting a bunch of games. Those games will need to be individually verified, because you could have, say, Roblox on Steam, you could have Fortnite on Steam. I don't know if those specifically are on Steam. I don't think they actually are, but both of those, maybe you say, oh, well, I'm going to allow my kid to use Fortnite, but I don't want them to use Roblox. So think of it more as just like a tool for them to access different applications and games. It's even if Steam itself is secure, it might not have all of the games on the side of it be something that you would approve of. So that would be an individual game based thing. Yep, so playing or talking late hours. So kind of a limit on how much they're online. Yeah. Yep, giving away information they shouldn't. Convincing them to do something that maybe they wouldn't have thought through all the way, or maybe they don't know is bad. Yeah. So I have about 4, I believe, of what I would categorize as the main worries. Oversharing and privacy is one of the big ones. It's really easy to do on every single platform I mentioned, which is why it's such a big and prevalent one. It can be information like a school name, a location, daily routine, photos that reveal too much about home or habits. So when you're thinking about these worries, obviously there's a little bit of things that you can be watching for that kind of give you an insight to maybe that they're falling into this oversharing issue. So the couple things that you can focus on are they location tagging? So maybe just make sure that they do not enable GPS. Do they have a public profile, or are all of their profiles private? Do they have the real name and age available on it? It is easy to use. When I was growing up, my mom had us use our first and then middle name, not our first and last name. So there's little things that you can do to kind of mediate or differentiate from your real identity that kind of keeps you safe while still providing the authenticity between people. Like if you're exchanging information, they know you're still that real person. It's possible now that you don't even need to put your real name out there. If you are already verifying that you are who you say you are, you can use a completely different, like, kind of a nickname in there. Another thing is cyberbullying. This is a big one because, again, it's one of those things that you might not be able to 100% verify that they're not going to be exposed to. So what you can do is just be aware of the red flags. How can you kind of keep an eye out for if they're experiencing anything so that you can step in and help? So one of the red flags are sudden mood changes. So maybe all of a sudden they were really excited. They're hanging out with new people online. They just got a new game. They're doing this, that, and whatever. But then all of a sudden one day they don't want to play it. They've been playing it nonstop and now they don't want to play it. They don't want to do it. They don't want to talk about it. That is one thing that you kind of want to keep an eye on because there could be a reason. If they're avoiding their phone or obsessively checking it. So anything, of course, this is just abnormal. You should be kind of the best case of what is normal. It could be different per child. And then, of course, withdrawing from friends or activities. And this doesn't have to be the friends that maybe caused or are related to the issue. It could be showing in different aspects of their life, especially if it's something where they were one of their insecurities was attacked. That insecurity is maybe tied to different aspects of their life, and now they feel vulnerable or threatened in other aspects of their life that aren't directly where the initial harm came from. So these are just little things that come from communication and just being watchful of your child's mood and behavior. This is another very serious one, which is manipulation or grooming. A lot of this comes from somebody who's older than your child that's online, building trust in order to exploit or manipulate them. Of course, we want to set all of these security things in line. The best way to avoid this is to make sure that you only ensure that they can interact with people that you approve of. So there's friends, they only see or interact with friends, and you can see the friend list and they know who all of the friends are and you know who all of the friends are in that list. That's the easiest way to kind of combat this. But of course, in the case that maybe they did meet somebody online or they're doing an online platform game and it's open to more people, you just want to be aware of, again, these red flags. If they all of a sudden have a new online best friend that you haven't met and they haven't met in person, that's a red flag to maybe get some more information about. If they're having late night or secretive messaging, all of a sudden, like anytime you walk around, they're like hiding their phone or closing their computer. Sometimes they can be aware that maybe what they're doing isn't correct, but still might not be aware of how bad the situation is. So just being aware of that change in behavior. If they all of a sudden are receiving gifts or currency, this could be in game. All of a sudden, if it seems like they're able to do or have more things in the game, just ask them how they got it. And any sort of emotional dependence on someone online. There should always be a way that they can unplug and shouldn't be attached to the device. If that is a case, then maybe take a look into it and see if there's anything behind that behavior. And then another one is content exposure. So what are they running into online? Is it supposed to be, or is it accidentally inappropriate, whether it's violence, it could be sexual content, it could be hate speech, or any sort of self-harm material. These are all things that you don't necessarily want them to be exposed to online. If they want to just be playing a video game with their friends, they should be able to just play that video game with their friends and not worry about something unexpected popping up, especially since if they're playing the same game that they've always played and then something, pops up one time, that could be enough to change their behavior because something has changed. So this is, again, there's a lot of security things that we can do. But in the end, if something gets past us, we want to look for these red flags. So it comes down to, again, changes in language or behavior. especially when it's content exposure. Language is a big thing. So it could be, where did you learn that word? Or maybe it's a phrasing of words or a focus on different things. Again, emotional reactions after using a device. Especially if it's not something that's age appropriate, then they might not be able to understand what that content is. So it could be showing in not so great ways. And then if they are avoiding conversation about what they saw. And of course, there's correct, not necessarily one correct way of going about how to engage with them, but just thinking about being aware of what these things are is the first step. So kind of watching for all of these red flags. The bottom line for all of them comes down to, is there a change in behavior? And you know your child best. So that is the first thing that you should be just kind of keeping your eye on, is making sure that they are acting like they typically would. And if there's anything that changes that behavior, just maybe take another look and see maybe why that change in behavior. So what can you do to help prevent, detect, or react to cyber safety risks? What are some things that you're currently doing maybe? Do you have any parental controls? Do you have any rules, house rules that you have set? What do you do currently? And as you guys are thinking about this, I do see, is there a safe way to remove previously shared photos and info from a social app? Surface level, yes. You can delete shared photos and information. You can edit your bio. You can edit information. Typically, even in chat threads, you should be able to edit or delete messages. However, you just need to know that maybe it got downloaded by somebody else. Maybe somebody took a screenshot. Maybe, there's ways that it could still live on past that initial message. But on the surface, yes, there's still ways that you can remove that information. Yeah, so Google and Microsoft blocking tools, those are good. Lots of talking, yeah. Yep. Making sure they understand the risks of what they're on is a good option there. Is there an app for services for monitoring? Yes, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. That was a perfect segue. So there are some device level controls, which are based off of, maybe I'm having some device set to the phone, and it's kind of managing what apps I'm able to go on or what your child is able to go on, and things like that. Maybe it's screen time for the actual phone. There's also app specific settings. So like all of the ones that we talked about, Discord, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of them have their own set of security settings and privacy settings. Many of them also have parental control settings. But it's going to be a little bit hard to go through each individual one. Instead, sometimes it's easier to have a device-oriented control. So these are some options, specifically thinking about mobile devices as phones. So Apple has their own parental control software. It's called Apple Screen Time. It's built in. It's known to work with Apple phones. So it can set screen time limits. This is helpful. Maybe they won't be as likely to be exposed to something or be as engrossed in the online world as much if they're only on it for a certain amount of time. Maybe you can also have it set so that it turns off at like 10 o'clock at night or whenever you think that they should be unplugged for the rest of their night so they can go through their nightly routine and go to bed. It can also block certain apps. So if you know for sure you do not want your kid to be using TikTok, and you've had that conversation and everybody understands that that's not what you want to do as a team, then it can block that app. Content filters, as a device, it can set these filters, which helps I wouldn't ever say any of these help 100% of the time, but with conjunction used together, it can help you a lot. It also allows location tracking for you. So if you want to know, hey, did they get to school safely? Did they go to their sports activity safely? Things like that. Also, if they lose their phone, you can use it to find the phone. They have that both for Apple and for Google, and they're meant to work with the phone. And Google is for most Android phones. Bark is a third-party one. Bark will work for computers as well as phones. It is not free though, but it does have a much higher level of checking on there. What it will also do is message monitoring. So one of the things that we're kind of worried about is stepping on the toes of like what the kid is doing to the point where they don't want to show us or engage in that teamwork for making sure that it's safe. So we want to make sure that this is still a team environment. So Bark will kind of be checking on what the messages that are going in and out of the phone are, and it's just checking for those red flags. Is, there's something that came through that's super harmful that maybe it wants to ping you about, but you don't have access to their actual chats. So they know that they are able to have the privacy to kind of, communicate with their friends on, day-to-day stuff. But if something were important that needs to flag your attention, then you would get that notification. So there's things that are in place for message monitoring if that is something that you wanted to look into. So app parental control options. These are some of the main social media ones. I would definitely recommend, if they use social media, to always check the security controls first. So Instagram has Family Center, Snapchat Family Center, TikTok has something called Family Pairing. A lot of these can link an account that you have with an account that they have. You can see a lot of information while still giving them, again, the privacy of being able to do what they want and engage with their friends, just so that you're able to see the important stuff. So like Snapchat, it says like you can see who they're messaging, but not the message content. You can see the friends list, and you can just basically manage the privacy together. These are kind of building teamwork, especially since once they get into social media, you're thinking that they're now preteen, maybe teenage years. So maybe they want more independence and privacy in that. So trying to find the best balance. So I'm not going to go through this specifically, but I'm looking to in the future have full workshops just walking through the settings for one or two specific apps. But there are demos that you can just look up online and say, how do I make TikTok more secure or more locked down or something like that? And you'll typically be able to find something. So finally, parental controls protect devices, but communication protects the kids. So it doesn't matter in the end if you have the most locked down parental controls where they can only open, maybe only Instagram or only WhatsApp, and they can only message, 5 people that you designated, and that this is all safe. But something will maybe slip through the cracks, or maybe it's somebody that you trusted and now they're getting into a fight, and now that is impacting your child. Or maybe they went behind your back because it was so locked down, and they wanted to still go through and play Roblox, or they still wanted to go and have, an Instagram account to follow these other people. So the parental controls have a limit. There's always going to be a limit. So it all comes down to the final and maybe first line of defense should be communication. Privacy needs to be a teamwork activity. So you are definitely going to be the person with all of the real world knowledge. You are the one that is aware of all of the dangers. But your child is the one that's, living their life and wants to have the privacy and the autonomy to be able to do that. So we're trying to find a way to maybe have open conversations with your kids, talk about, hey, what do you want? Do you want to have a way to engage with your friends? Okay, what platforms are they using? Which one do we think is the best option for us? Maybe talk about, well, we could use this platform, but these are the settings I would have set for it. What do you think about that? And just having that open dialogue so that they understand that you're not trying to make all of the decisions for them. And then they're going to be more likely to come to you if something happens. Because if they know that they can come to you, that will make it so much easier for you to address the issue as soon as possible. If you have to wait for maybe the red flags to appear for you to notice that, it might have had some impact on the kid before you're able to step in. So communication and having that open dialogue is the most important thing that you can do. And this is pretty much what I was talking about a second ago. So we have about 5 minutes left that I can leave for an open Q&A.
So we do have a couple questions in here. I was trying not to interrupt your slides, but there's a couple questions I wanted to make sure people got answered. I have one that from Kelly. She says, how can you track to see if child predators are online with your kids since they pose as kids and teens?
So the easiest way of doing this is you can never be sure. That's the first thing. There's a certain level of anonymity that comes with being online. However, if you set controls that are saying maybe they only interact with people that you've already verified, there's a way that, some apps will allow them to talk openly to a public area, and some of them are only set to people that you've already approved. And the approval can be they've sent a friend request to you, you've sent a friend request to them, and that comes down to checking who's on that friend list and have you met them all in person, and do you approve of them in person. That's the easiest way to avoid child predators, is just making sure that you know exactly who they're talking to. Another thing to think about is maybe they have a friend online, and that friend that you maybe verified has a friend, but you haven't met that friend. There's a certain level of trust, or a transitive trust, that happens, and you want to be aware of how open are you to that, because it could just be this person that they met, in person, and they exchanged that, but you have no way of checking that. So maybe that person is exposed to somebody that you don't want to be exposed to your child. So there's different levels of, you can be interacted with friends and then friends of friends, or none. So there's different things that you want to look at, but keeping it to people that you know offline is the most secure way of knowing who they're interacting with online.
And I noticed you brought it up earlier, how I had you helping me when you were a teenager in the house. Now you're away at college, so it's not quite as easy for me to get your help, but how you used to help me with Logan. So he was real little at the time, and he was, doing all the things all the other kids that age are doing, nothing crazy, but I didn't know what any of those things were. But you did, you knew more than me. And so that was a really good thing to bring up. I'm pretty tech savvy, and even myself, I can't keep up with all the stuff that the kids are getting into these days online. And so getting older siblings in the household to help out with monitoring. I don't know if you remember, but I would literally be like, Logan, go ask Mercy if you're allowed to do this app. And you would say yes or no. And he'd be like, he was okay with that though, when you said no. Do you remember that?
I know I was setting the controls for his Roblox. I still get pings whenever he wants to log in.
Use the older siblings, you guys. And then Ray asked a good question. They're all on Steam. What do you think? What do you think about Steam?
Yeah, so Steam, I kind of briefly mentioned it while we were waiting. Steam is ultimately just a way to access different games. It's like a Play Store or an App Store, but for desktop games. Steam can then, I believe it has a chat inside of it, and you can see like what games your friends are playing. In and of itself, I don't think you can determine it to be safe or unsafe just because it has so many different games that might individually be safe or unsafe. So just think about that as a store. If you go into GameStop and maybe you trust GameStop as a store, but maybe there's a game that's appropriate for your child, and maybe there's a game that's not appropriate for your child in there. So just having the validation on each thing that's going in there. And they can have friends inside of Steam, and I believe they can have a chat log in there. So again, that'll come down to making sure that they know who they're chatting with anything.
All right, we've just got a couple more. So we're going to go a couple minutes over, but we're going to try really hard and stick really closely to 60 minutes. Jennifer asked if this is going to be recorded, and I just wanted to make sure I noted that, yes, it is being recorded. I'm not sure everywhere we're going to be saving it, but it will definitely be on the Mars YouTube channel. But in any of the comments under here, you can ask us later on, and we'll let people know where the recording goes. And Mercy, everyone's allowed to use this in their micro schools if they want to with parents, right?
Yes.
Actually, highly recommend it. And then this was really interesting to me. I want to make sure people know, because I learned this from you girls when you were teenagers, that when I forget what app it was, but one of you showed me how you turn into a little airplane when you're flying somewhere, right?
Snapchat.
Okay, talk about that for a minute. Like that people don't know that.
Yeah, so you don't think about GPS as something that is by default turned on. It's on almost all of these social media apps in some way or another. Instagram, you can have it location tag every time you make a post. Snapchat will have just basically a live GPS of where your friends are, which is very insecure. I think regardless, I don't think anybody should have that enabled. But that by default might be turned on. So just checking for GPS on any app. For most parts, kids probably don't even need GPS enabled on their device at all. I keep it enabled just because I need to use Google Maps. But if they're not driving yet, maybe they don't even need GPS enabled, and then they know for sure it's not being used on any of the apps.
But what do you think about Life 360? Because that's what we literally track our kids with, and that turns
those
into
are going to have they're going to have different security risks for each of them, because of course it's getting information that you want, but you want to make sure that other parties do not have. So finding one that you trust, like we trust Life 360. We're making the trade-offs between having them have our data and knowing that we also can now access that data of each other. I know some people who don't make that trade-off with Life 360 and choose other platforms. But just making sure that you find one that you trust and have done the research on, it can be more beneficial to have that access to the GPS than it being available. Life 360 is a private circle. Snapchat isn't open. So it's open to anybody who can see your account, can see your location. I always have a private account, regardless of what social media. I would recommend that for everybody else. So it would only be to my friends, but think about where is that GPS and is it necessary?
All right. Jennifer asks about taking down photos. I think I know what you're going to say, but is there a way?
On the surface, yes, you can take photos down. If I make a post, right now my Instagram only has 2 posts on it. If anybody went up to my Instagram right now, they'd only see those 2 posts. But in the past, I've posted probably 20 other posts on it, but I've removed them. But of course, if somebody else who was on my account 2 years ago took a screenshot of my account, yeah, it would still be living out there somewhere. If there was some incident that came from something that I posted or somebody else posted, that would then live on in other ways, whether through word of mouth or photos or text evidence. But on the surface, you can delete stuff. And I would suggest, going back through what you have out there every once in a while. Because if you're just looking at, maybe I'm about to go to a job interview and I want to make sure that when they Google my name, only the things that best represent myself show. Doing a surface level, oh, well, I'm just going to remove this one goofy, photo or whatever before I go and go through this application process. That would be fine on the surface.
Awesome. I have one. We have a lot of conversations about Microsoft in our house, and we use Minecraft Education Edition, and then there's the servers that people have personally made on their for groups, small groups, or just their families. So I don't know if you want to talk about the fact that you could do Minecraft in those kinds of ways, not necessarily just with the public.
Yeah, so Minecraft was a good way that you can have that middle ground where they're still playing with groups, but it's all based off of join codes. So you get a join code. Like if you want everybody to join your world in Minecraft, you want to all play inside of this world, then you have some 5-character code that you give to your friends. And then that security comes from nobody can join that without that code, and you have that code. So where are you putting that code? If you put it, if you post it online, it's not secure anymore. But if you only give it to your 3 friends that you want to play with, then you know for a fact that the people in your world are all people that you trust.
And then I had an idea when you mentioned Be Real. I have never heard of that one. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, how many don't I know about that my kids could be getting on? And so maybe we should start having every 6 months or once a year conversations with our kids to get the full list, and then keep that list somewhere and then track it again the next year. And just maybe being aware and having that conversation, getting the full list of what our kids and family members are who we're talking to out in the world. That might just bring things to the surface that, like I said, I've never even heard of Be Real, but that one actually sounded kind of interesting and scary still at the same time.
Yeah, it's definitely hits both sides of it. Another thing to think about is obviously the conversation is a great way to go about that, but you can also have for Android phones or for Apple phones, you can have it set so that you can see every app that's downloaded on their phone. So then if you see one that you don't recognize, you can then look it up or ask them about it.
Awesome. And they're just saying thank you. So thank you, Mercy.
I hope to have a little bit more information about this. We're going to be doing a beta run next year of more iterances of this workshop in person, hosted at my university, open to the public. But I'm hoping to get this so that I can have a training module so that other people can do it that don't necessarily have my knowledge, so that it can reach more people, especially in person. I found that to be a very good medium. So hopefully I will be able to get more information out to you guys so you can help you guys in your circles more as well.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. If you guys have any more questions or comments at all, Mercy and I will be watching in the comments on the pages that we're on right now. So please feel free to keep asking questions if you have them. The video of this will live permanently on the Mars Micro School YouTube channel, so you can find it there later or a year from now, and ask us anytime you want to about what's going on with the beta and how you can get your hands on the actual training, because I'm sure it's going to be awesome and everyone definitely will benefit from this. So thank you, Mercy. We're going to close off now.